told me. He said, are you looking for a wife? He points his finger at me. He says, I don't know you, and points his finger at her and says, I don't know you, but there is something there.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome. So glad you're here for episode 134. God still sends His angels. Key word in there is still. Before we get to that and some wonderful stories today, I'm very excited about this episode. I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you. We just passed the 1 million downloads. A million downloads. When we started this back in 2013 with Blind Faith Live and last 2.5 with Touched by Heaven, we just watched this continual growth, just month to month, year to year, more listeners. And, a download is that's a number. You're not a number. You're a listener. And you get it. If you just got here and just brand new, what the rest of us are getting is the fact that everything we read about in the Bible is still happening today. Still, that's that still word. God is still sending His angels, still sending His healing, still sending His nudges, still sending His dreams to us that guide us, still sending us signs that we're asking for. And sometimes when we don't even ask, He sends the sign. It's all still happening. And our mission here is to link what's happening in the world today, because nothing has changed. As He was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. And you'll hear that again today. All those things still happening today, and you'll hear about it in these episodes. So thank you so much for it. It all comes from you. I mean, the stories come from you. We're a 5-star podcast because of you, because of ratings and reviews, the hundreds that you've left inside your apps. So thank you for the ratings and reviews. We thank you for your support. If you're helping us out through Patreon, thank you so much. If you find these episodes a blessing and in some way fortify your faith or help you come to your faith, and wish to support us through Patreon, you can just go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack, or link here at episode 134. So thank you for all of that, for making all of this happen. Still, God still sends His angels. So in this episode today, we'll have all of this stillness continue through Tim, Aaron, Catherine, and that matchmaker angel with Dave coming up here today. All right, Tim, let's start with you.
That is my absolute favorite thing about your show and what's connected me. But after I started listening to your show, I started taking inventory of all the things that had occurred with me. And I'm like, you know what? He's doing stuff in my life and He's doing it right now. And it's like, I never put those two together. And so I feel prior to your show and to you, God was a thing from the Bible, but now He's alive again to me. And I can't thank you enough for that. Like my wife noticed the difference because I was listening to your podcast and she goes, why are you so happy?
What are you on, man? What are you on?
I know, but that's exactly, but it did. It set a fire in me, and I just can't thank you enough for that. I really do appreciate it.
Because that's the way it worked for me too. And it was like, oh, you mean this isn't just historic. This is like
I
now.
know.
Yeah. So when I saw one of your stories about what happened in a bowling alley, and I thought, you could wrap that around synchronicities, coincidence, and I'm going, no, you were there, and nothing added up for you to be where you were to intervene in somebody's life before that individual would have died.
I know.
So I'd like you to take us to that story and kind of take us through it. You guys were throwing a bowling party, or what was going on?
So I have twin boys. It was their 2-year-old birthday party. And so they brought, a handful of their friends. We probably had 20 people. We were in a bowling alley where they have like, what do you call it? One of those ball pits and arcades. So it's just noisy as everything in there. And we're sitting around a table and we're having pizza and cake and all that good stuff. And there's overflow bowling lanes behind me. So no one was using it. They had the lights on, and it's when it gets real busy in there, they'll, start putting patrons or whatever back there and they can bowl, extra people bowl. So as my kids and everybody's making all kinds of noise, in the middle of my head, I hear a scream. And I'm one of those people, I can focus, I can tune absolutely everything out, including my screaming kids and wife and all that good stuff. But I hear this little scream and I'm going, okay, that was weird. So I just stand up and I hear it again and I'm going, why do I hear a scream? So,
Do you feel like you're the only one hearing it?
oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. No one had a clue what was going on but me. And it was like, it was coming from the center of my head. So anyway, I stood up and I turned around and I looked in the overflow bowling area. There's like 10 or 12 lanes back behind me. So I start walking back there and the lights are on, but no one's back there. I mean, 0 people. It's like an empty room. So I walk back there and it's a fair distance. I can see when the bowling pins come down, there's one of those arms that comes and sweeps. And so, sorry, this has affected me a long time. Not to discount other people, but I think it gave me PTSD to this situation because it really affected me. But I keep seeing this arm come down. And so the bowling arm. So I'm walking down and I keep feeling this scream in the middle of my head. And I looked where the arm kept coming down. I literally walked halfway down the bowling lanes and I looked back there and in the back of where the pins are set up, I see a doll and it's got red on it and it's got blue on it and it's got white on it. And I can see it moving around. And my mind won't wrap around what I'm seeing. And I'm like, how can there be a doll in this machine? And so I walk closer and the arm comes down and it sweeps the doll back in the machine. And then the arm comes down and it sweeps the doll back in the machine. And as I get closer, I see it's a little baby girl. And that machine is pulling her into the machine. And she's screaming bloody murder. And the terror in her eyes was just unbelievable.
How old do you think she was?
Oh, she's probably 18 months old. She's just a little itty bitty thing. Just a little pretty long haired girl.
Who somehow wandered away from her family.
Everybody.
And nobody noticed.
No one would have seen her. No one knew she was back there. It was a side room that, no one was in. No one would have known she was there. So I realized it was a baby girl in there. So I run and I jump in that stupid machine, and the arm, as soon as I jump in, that arm comes down on me and it sucks me into the machine. I'm like, God's like, no, you're not going to make it out of this because no one's going to know we're back there. And it starts pulling me in the machine, and I'm fighting off that stupid arm because it's come down on my chest and it's pulling me in. And it's unbelievably strong. I had no idea. But anyway, I ended up fighting myself back out of that machine. And I run screaming bloody murder down to where my family was, tell them to get the machine turned off. And so, my family all jumps up and they come running down there and they're trying to find doors. And we finally get an attendant who shuts down the machine. And so my wife pulls this little girl out of the thing, and there's wheels in there that pull the pins and so forth all back in the machine to get it reset. And they're blue and they're red and the pins are white. And this thing has tossed her around in that machine so much, she has got the marks from the wheels. So the blue and the red on her face were from the wheels pulling her back into the machine. And like I say, she was probably 18 months old. She would not have survived that if she'd been in that or got caught in just a specific way. So we got her out. We got her back to her family. The management came and they called an ambulance or whatever to check her out. But I was really shaken up after that. It caused me to where I wouldn't go into a bowling alley for at least a year after that, because every time I did, that picture of that little girl screaming in the back of that machine would just haunt me. But had God not called me, and screamed in the middle of my head while all that chaos was going on, I really don't believe she would have made it.
Do you remember the reunion with the parents or anything? Were you able to see that?
Yeah, well, it was, my wife was not very happy about that because the lady was kind of one of those inattentive mothers. And she was like, oh, she's all right. And my wife started arguing with the lady, and it kind of got into a big mess because we had saw what happened to the little girl and the mother had no clue. And she was just like blowing it off like it was no big deal. But so our meeting was cut short. We went back to our table. The management came out, and for all 20 people of us, they said, you know what, you guys don't have to pay your bill or anything. Just take your time, go ahead and leave when you're done. But thank you for what you did. It just blew me away.
So there's an 11-year-old, walking around today.
Yeah.
Because you were there. How does that make you feel?
Well, it's really, I mean, I can honestly say, had God not screamed in the middle of my head and told me to listen to that nudge, to him yelling to me, she would not be here. So it was truly not me. It was God using me. I was his instrument, without a doubt.
But you say it's affected you, though. It's still traumatized you. You still see it. We can hear it in your voice. You still see it. You still hear it.
I absolutely, without a doubt, see that little girl's face, the colors on her screaming, the look in her eye. It was just, it was awful. It was just, and as a parent, it just wrecks you. So yes, I still do. And I still avoid bowling alleys.
Especially that 7-10 split. It's such a bear, Tim. It's still, I'm sorry, I'm making light of something here, but I'm,
but it's true though. You got to.
Yeah.
You've got to.
Yeah. Just to relieve it a little bit, because my gosh, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You were there for a reason. You were just absolutely there for a reason.
So God used me, absolutely, without a doubt. And I feel it now. I look for it now. Before I never used to look for it, but it's happening all the time. It's happening to all of us, all around us, but we just have to, I don't know, listen to the nudge, I guess. Before your show, I was never looking for it, but I look for it on a daily basis now. I'm like, all right, where are you going to use me? And then sometimes I ask God to use me, and he does.
Now that you're looking for God, that just helps the conversation with God day to day, I think, when we're just kind of looking for him, seeing him. That's awesome,
Every day.
Thanks, Tim. Talk about an act of God. For him to be the only one. You've been in a bowling alley. You know how noisy those places are. And just amidst all of that clamoring and just craziness, to hear somewhere off that scream, and Tim's the only one. Angel nudge or direct from God, however all that worked. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right, Catherine now. Catherine is a nurse. She's had a few different encounter stories involving dreams, healing, and, let's see where Catherine begins today. Oh, yeah, a little message from heaven will begin here on Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. What got triggered when you started listening that you wanted to share?
Well, I guess,
You sound like you're in the car. Did you sneak off into the car?
I absolutely did.
It feels like the front seat.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking.
I have lots of kids, and I feel bad. I told my kids, because you're kind of a celebrity in our house, because my littles listen with me. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to go talk to Trapper Jack. They're like, what? Really? They were so excited.
Wow.
Can we go? I'm like, nope. And I'm going to have to leave so that I can talk. Yeah.
All right. And away we go.
For one, just for past experiences, like, oh, I guess I'm not cuckoo bananas for these things and these signs that I full-heartedly believe in. Other people go through them too. And just like I said, listening to other people's stories really bring you comfort, I think, in this life,
Good news. We're not all nuts. good news.
Yeah, right?
Really.
Right?
No, it's true. It helps. It reassures, it fortifies, I think, that, as I always say, all the things that we read about in the Bible still happening. No reason why they would have stopped. God still being God,
Right.
you know.
So, one time I went to first times I went to go visit my grandma at the cemetery. I had started to, this is about signs. So I'm one of those that, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, Fools Rush In with Selma Hayek and Matthew Perry. It's really cute. But
Okay.
anyway, she believes in signs. And I think I've always, so at the cemetery with my grandma, and just talking to her, and I was asking her to give me a sign like that you're okay. Like, are you okay? Are you in purgatory? Where are you? Are you okay? Because she's the first person that's passed away that's really been that close to me that it was hard to imagine that she wasn't here. Just really hard. And as soon as I started just crying, like the big ugly cry, like, please just show me a sign that you're okay, my phone rang, and I looked, and it was an unknown number. And I calmed down, and I'm like, okay. I proceeded to keep talking to her, and then started crying and ugly crying again. Grandma, please give me a sign that you're okay. I need to know you're okay. You're in heaven. You're okay. The phone rang again, an unknown number. So as I was walking to the van, I still was like, what? We all get unknown calls from whoever. I'm sure that was just a coincidence. Well, I happened to have the podcast on, and on Spotify, I'm sure on other ways to listen to podcasts, you can fast forward or move to the spot that you want to move to. And whatever I was listening to, I'd already listened, so I moved it to try to find a different part that I didn't listen to. And right away it said like a call from Elaine. And to this day, I keep going back trying to find what it was or which episode it was or what it was, but I can't. But I know it said something about a call from Elaine, and that's my grandma's name. So I thought that was really...
Wow. The odds of Elaine coming up on your phone? Pretty remote.
I know.
Pretty remote.
No, absolutely. So I literally was like, after I heard that, and I like looked over at her gravesite, and I'm like, okay, I got it. You're good. Everything's good. You're in heaven. Everything's good. Okay, I believe you were calling or somebody or something. I don't know.
Somehow Elaine's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So, car story is that I was going to work. When you stop at a stoplight, I think we are supposed to check both ways, still just to make sure no one's coming, no one's going to run a red light, right? When it turns green, I go, gun it and go because I'm running late and let's go to work. There was this morning that I, for whatever reason, the light turned green and it felt, I don't know how to explain it. Like it felt like I was kind of out of time, like everything was going slow motion and I couldn't go. And I didn't go. I just sat there, and I don't know why. I mean, I have no idea why. But then a car flew past going very fast, running a red light.
Left to right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would have been dead. I still didn't go after the car went because I was like, oh my gosh, I could have been dead. For sure. Like, there's no doubt.
It's amazing how many times that's popped up. I mean, the angels, I always say this, that there should be so many more accidents on the road. I mean, just people being people. It's just the odds. You look at highways and you go, how do these people not? How do we not? How do we not?
Right.
And you have those angelic moments where, like you say, time stands still and no, not time to go yet. And
yeah, it was really weird because any other day I would have just gone.
Yeah.
For sure. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. But I do believe we all have guardian angels. So, my 9-year-old son, when I was pregnant with him, early in the pregnancy, like the first 8 weeks, I started spotting. So I had miscarriages before, so I kind of thought that might be what it was. And I had gone to the doctor and had my HCG levels drawn a few times, and they were gradually going down. And early in pregnancy, they typically should be like doubling like every 72 hours approximately.
And what does that represent, that number?
HCG, it's a pregnancy hormone, and you have it when you're pregnant. So it should be going up. At 3:00, I was listening and praying the Divine Mercy, and I got a call from the doctor's office saying that my numbers, the HCG level, the numbers were going down, and my pregnancy was no longer viable. That I should come in to have to have a D&C if I hadn't had the full miscarriage.
Yeah. At what point in the pregnancy are you?
I believe less than 8 weeks. I don't know exactly. It was less than 8 weeks at the time. Obviously, I prayed, and I pray the Divine Mercy, and I, really believe in the power of that. And I told them that I didn't want to have a D&C because I wanted to, could we do an ultrasound first? But I was just assuming, because I had been bleeding, that it was, I was probably having a miscarriage. So they said I could come in for the ultrasound, went in for the ultrasound, and I was very tearful. And the tech looked over really confused. She's like, what's wrong? Like, well, I'm having a miscarriage. And she's like, no, you're not. Your baby's right there. Look. And it was fine.
Interesting. And for those who don't know, Divine Mercy Chaplet is you're using your rosary, but praying other prayers on those beads. And plus the 3 o'clock hour being a very powerful time. 3 p.m. is when Christ died on the cross. So it's a powerful hour. And so many times we hear about things that happen at that 3 o'clock point. So you got into your prayer. And was your prayer, well, what? Do you remember what your prayer was?
If I was supposed to have this baby, that he would be okay. And I really felt like I was supposed to have him. Really. And he is such a blessing. It's funny, he's our little old soul, and he's kind of quiet, but then he'll say like the most profound, hilarious things. And he's an awesome kid. Can't imagine life without him. Which leads me to my next, and last story that I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year, I had a scare where I found a lump in my breast, and I had to get a mammogram. I was terrified. I really thought that I had cancer. And the night before I went to go get my mammogram, I was sleeping on the couch. Don't worry, everyone. My marriage is fine.
Yeah, if it wasn't, he would be on the couch. Yeah, there you go.
I have a diabetic son, so I often check his blood sugars throughout the night. And if he's having a night of crazy blood sugars, I tend to sleep on the couch because I won't sleep as soundly. Like, I'm afraid that I won't wake up for my alarm on my phone to check his blood sugar. So oftentimes I'll sleep on the couch so that I'm not quite as comfy and I can wake up. So that's why I was on the couch. So I'm laying on the couch. I was having this, I don't know, it was like a dream, but it wasn't, because I felt like I was awake, but not really. And my head was down, like I was laying on my side, facing the inside of the couch, and it was all dark. It was very dark in this place, really dark. And I just kept hearing a voice saying, "Look up." And this voice wasn't female, it was male, but it wasn't scary. Just kept saying, "Look up, look up, look up." And when I looked up, it was like this, like a cool breeze, and like a scent, really pretty scent of roses. And I think it was Mary. Like, her face wasn't super clear, but I could tell it was her. And the colors around her were all white and pastel and just beautiful. And it was like a breeze. And there was no talking, just I knew there was a sense of, you're going to be okay. You're not done. You're not done there yet. Everything's going to be fine. I woke up. I'm like, well, that was really weird. All right. And when I woke up, I was looking up, which was kind of funny, because in my dream, or whatever sort of state I was in, I had been looking down, and this voice was telling me to look up. Went back to sleep. The next morning was my mammogram. I didn't really think much. I didn't think about it again, which is weird. You would think that I would, because I pray and talk to Mary all the time. And you would think, I wear my miraculous medal every day. You would think that I would remember that right away. But I didn't. I was very, consumed with the kids and getting them to their places. And then, so I'm driving to my mammogram, and I just randomly put on Spotify, put on one of my favorite singers, Christian singers. Her name's Lauren Daigle. She's really awesome, has some really awesome songs that have gotten me through lots of stuff. And when I put it on, the song Rescue came on. And right when that song came on and the lyrics, oh my gosh, that dream. Oh my God, I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true. I will rescue you. And
That's beautiful. That's perfect.
The whole song. And I just thought, wow. And how cool is it too that I was like in the dark in my dream. It was dark. And whoever it was kept very insistently but lovingly being like, look up, look up. Like, it's going to be okay. What is wrong? And I feel like it's pretty much saying like Jesus is there for you. Like, he's always going to be there to rescue you. He's always going to be there. I feel like I've never seen a color in a dream or, noted that I saw a specific color, and I never had a smell, like remember having a smell in a dream. That's, you know what I mean? That's just, I was still scared. And then I was kind of getting a little like, okay, come on. You believe that Mary came and, hung out with you for a little bit last night. There's no reason. You don't have to be scared. Everything's fine. She said it was going to be fine. Everything's fine. But yeah, it all turned out to be okay. I didn't have anything. Everything was fine. It was all benign. It was lymph nodes. I didn't have anything. So, and I look back and I say, you know what? Sometimes I feel like in my faith, everybody's faith journey, we say we have faith, but then when it really comes down to it, you're like, oh, do I really though? Like, did I trust? Because I was so scared in that moment. Like, why couldn't I just let it go and not be scared? But I look back and like, man, if I hadn't had that vision or whatever it was, I might have had a flipping stroke because I was so terrified, like I can laugh about it now because I mean, it's in the past, but I'm fine and I'm okay. Like, and I guess my takeaway from all of these things in my life is that, through these scary times, me being a nurse and working during these scary times, that, all I can do is trust and give it to Jesus. That's all I can do. And know that if it's not my time, like somehow, whether if it's an angel or whatever, some sort of divine intervention, that I'm going to be okay. And I believe that for everybody, that there's a plan for everybody. And it's funny because when I look back, I wish my whole life I would have been jotting down all of the things, because I look back and like I said, I've always said the guardian angel prayer. That's just one thing that we grew up saying, and saying the rosary. And I know there've been so many close calls when I was younger where I maybe shouldn't be here, or my conscience, like my Jiminy Cricket, is like so fierce that I'm afraid to do things. Now, whether that's a guardian angel.
There's an old reference, my Jiminy Cricket. You don't hear that very often, my Jiminy Cricket.
You could tell how old I am. Whether it was my conscience or an angel or somebody, telling me, hey, maybe don't do that. Like, I look back and I'm like, man, we all made stupid choices, but I could have made way worse choices, or the stupid choices that I made, I know could have been way worse. Like, the outcome could have been way worse, and they weren't. I know that I've always had a guardian angel, probably kept them pretty busy too, but
they stay busy.
Honestly, just hearing other people's stories is very uplifting. And so I appreciate what you do. I really do.
Thank you so much for that. Thanks, Catherine, for your stories. Wow. Nudges from heaven, messages, dreams, healing. It's all there. Oh, and thanks to the kids too. Appreciate you guys listening and wanting to listen to these stories. All right, let's head out to the best weather in the world as far as I'm concerned. San Diego, California. Our listener, Erin, her and her husband, Henry, both listeners to the Touched by Heaven podcast. And Erin's been going through a tremendous amount of stress in her life. She had just lost her twin sister to cancer. And she just needed things to kind of slow down, and things weren't about to slow down. And God just wanted to send a message saying, it's okay. Trust, a little bit of trust.
It was Henry who found you. He listens to a lot of podcasts because he had a longer drive into his office. Poor Henry has an office right on the beach in San Diego, but
you only live in the greatest place in the world, just so you know. I mean, my gosh, there's no better weather than San Diego.
I know.
Your weather guy just has to come out and go, same. Okay, thanks. Bye. Same.
You're a Californian.
Originally. Yeah.
And where are you based right now,
I'm Cleveland now. Cleveland.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I moved here for the weather. Who wants to live in San Diego when you can have this? Come on. Henry indicated that you've got stories. What bubbled up in your mind when
yes, I do. When my sister passed away, both my children were just starting, like, Well, one went to kindergarten, one went to preschool. My husband, Henry, you know Henry, obviously, but he was with a startup company as well. And so when the kids got back to school, I just thought, okay, all I want to do is just for a few hours every day, just sit and stare at the wall. Because I was just so tired and just emotion. It was so hard that first year, especially. But things are going on fine with Henry. But I just am like, okay, I don't want any other stress outside of just trying to grieve this right now. I had this dream again. It was a dream, but I got woken up and it was like 4 a.m. And so it was like when you're in lighter sleep. And when I came to fully realize the dream, it was, I was talking, I want to say it's my angels, but I don't know for sure. But they had said, I was agreeing, like they were telling me, like, Henry's going to leave this job and it's going to be the best thing that has happened to him. And before that, like, I didn't want him to do that. I was like, he's going to be out on his own. He's starting his own business. This is so stressful. I don't know if I can deal with this, with just this grief right now, because I'm having such a hard time with it. And in this dream, like, they were showing me why this would be such a good thing. And so as I was becoming like more conscious, I agreed with them and I said, yes, this will be the best thing for him. And so I'm fine with that. So then I dropped the kids off at school and I got this text from Henry, can you meet for lunch? And I'm like, what's wrong? Because he was so busy at that time. He never had time for lunch. And that's when he told me, he's like, I'm going to leave and we're going to come to this agreement. I'm going to leave and I'm going to start my own business. And I said, good, do it. You have my full support. Where I swear, if I wouldn't have had that experience, I don't know if I would have been so easily, supportive. I probably would have been, I'm so stressed, or I don't know, blah, blah, blah.
You obviously told him what your experience was.
I did. I told him that. So,
which is great for him too. It's confirmation that, okay, we're getting it from the spiritual realm as well,
Exactly. And you just have to have faith and keep going. Even like, don't be stopped by fear, because it's so natural for all of us. We get in our comfort zones and it's just, there's a lot going on in the world that can happen. It can make you very fearful, but don't let that fear stop you or influence your decisions. Stay God-centered, keep your faith, and he will take care of you.
Well, at every turn in the Bible, fear not.
Yeah.
Fear not. It's like fear. We're scared to death. We never admit it, but we're scared to death. Fear not about this and fear not about. We have a very difficult time venturing out and taking a risk here. What seems like a risk, when actually, as you say, it could just be God's purpose. This is what you're supposed to do. So you look for your signs, confirmation that this is the right direction to go. Henry kind of got that from you as well, and so that's kind of cool. You're on the same page.
It is. It's watching out for all of us. And it's like, even with all this happening to me, there have been times I've been very fearful too. And I just really have to take a moment and have faith and recenter myself. And it's going to be okay. It always is. We always get through this somehow. And I think it's like the devil puts that fear, tries to influence your thoughts or, go after your thinking sometimes to just create that destruction or havoc in your life, to keep you away from, God's path and what is God's will, which is so good. And then I've had one time, this is going back to my sister, but when I was with my nephew and it was about 4 years after she passed away, he was just hanging out with me and we were kind of closing our eyes and resting, and he fell asleep and I was just kind of lightly awake, kind of in between that state again. And all of a sudden I had this, there was my sister there and it was this beautiful garden, just sparkling, beautiful place she was. She was looking at us and she was just happy. I could just sense it. And she looked radiant and beautiful. So that was pretty cool too. It's almost like you can sense it when the feeling you get when that kind of stuff is happening. It's just really peaceful and beautiful. Like you don't want it to stop.
Well, we're connected to everything and everybody, but obviously when you have a twin sister, and there's all those legendary stories about twin sisters and what they feel and, know that the other is happening and all that. So that's not all that unusual in that regard, but yours obviously taken to a next level. But we are really all, I'm connected to you, you're connected to me, you're connected to your family, and we all are connected. And especially as believers, we're all part of the body of Christ. That's kind of like an extra connection. We're connected to heaven. That's hopefully where we're headed. That's, we're in exile here. We're in exile and we're making our way just, like the Israelites in the Old Testament, we're making our way to the promised land. It's just the promised land upgraded considerably. But we are all connected and they're praying for us. And,
it's true. We have not, you can lose someone physically, but you haven't lost their soul and that love and that connection. They're just in a different place and they're there. You still have that same relationship and love and bond. So that's absolutely right. And, I really enjoy listening to your podcast because, I didn't really talk about any of this kind of stuff. I did a little bit to people as I was experiencing it when my sister passed away, but a lot of people, if it hasn't happened or you haven't been through certain things, they didn't understand it really, or, but then with your podcast, you see like there's actually a lot of people who experience a lot of things like this. And it's just so good to hear these stories. And it's like a validation as well. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope so. It should fortify. It should make, we shouldn't be surprised. We just should not be surprised. God is now as he was and as he will be. He doesn't change. He is
That's right.
Rock solid.
That is right.
More signs. God still sending his angels. He sent one to Dave. Sometimes angels are matchmakers. Yeah, God wants us connected, and he certainly wants us connected to the people that we should be connected to. For Dave, a truck driver, he needed a partner. He'd been in 2 bad marriages. He was at the lowest of the low ebbs. And what do we do when we hit that lowest point? Hopefully we pray. Hopefully we pray, and that hand comes down and picks us up. Here's Dave on Touched by Heaven.
So in fact, the overdose is what I did. I was depressed, and one night I was coming home, Pennsylvania Turnpike, pouring down, raining. I started crying and praying and screaming at God. And, I let him know exactly what I thought of the whole plan for my life. I needed somebody special. I wanted somebody, beside me. And that would be very hard to find for anything. Someone that would want to, be in a truck, drive or ride or whatever. The next day, my logbook, I had to stop. So I picked Indianapolis and picked Flying J, and I pulled in there to fill up my truck, and I went in to pay for the fuel. I couldn't get fuel. For whatever reason, my company credit card wasn't working. The lady behind the counter, I don't know really what got the conversation started, but I looked at her and I said, "You know who you remind me of?" And she said, "No." I said, "You remind me of Roseanne." Kinda.
Gee, what a compliment.
Yeah, I know.
Well, are we talking shape? Are we talking mouth? Are we talking look?
Maybe it was a personality.
Okay.
She was she was bubbly.
We're going to use bubbly on this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Did she take it as a compliment when you said you remind me of Roseanne?
Sorta.
Okay.
And I didn't even realize it, but those women back there, they're on a platform. They're like 2 foot taller than everybody else. But anyway, I wasn't, trying to flirt or anything. I just did it as kind of a compliment. And so anyway, this guy walks up to me. In fact, we can't even We don't even believe he bought anything. But you remember O.J. Simpson's best friend? He lived with him, Cato Caitlin. You remember that guy?
Well, of course. If you saw the trial in '95, yeah. Wait, what year was this again? What year was this?
This was in '95.
So this is as the trial is going on. This guy kind of comes up. Look at. Oh, okay.
Yes. That was, believe it or not, it was a shock. But this guy just walks up to me. And of course, this is before you pay at the pump. We get to talking, and he points. He just, and like I say, by now there's 15, let's just say, perturbed truck drivers behind me wanting me to get out of their way so they can go ahead and pay for their fuel. And we've got the system clogged up.
You're standing in line. You got 15 guys behind you now. You got Cato Caitlin coming up to you, basically, and he says what?
He told me. He said, "Are you looking for a wife?" Seriously, honest to God. And I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "What would you look for in a wife?" I said, "Well, she'd have to be something special." And he looked at Judy and said, "Are you looking for what are you looking for in a husband?" And her second husband had walked out on her and her girls 2 years before, and
so she's 0 for 2. You've already had 2 wives.
Yeah.
You're both batting 0 for 2.
Right.
Okay.
He points his finger at me, just flat out points his finger at me. He says, "I don't know you," and points his finger at her and says, "I don't know you, but there is something there." So anyway, I got the fuel, and I got my receipt. So I was going back into the truck stop to take a shower, and had my shaving kit with me and everything. It was almost like somebody touched me on the shoulder and said, "What was you asking for last night?" And I thought, well, heck, I'll call and see if she'll answer the phone.
You haven't even gotten to the shower yet, and now you find a phone to call into the place you just walked out of.
Yeah, the shower's inside the building.
Okay, so you're still in the main complex, calling her at the desk, at the counter.
Yes.
How did you even get the number? How do you even call?
Well, back in those days, they had things they called yellow pages, and
I remember those.
Yeah. And
okay.
So anyway,
So you called and said, "Remember." How do you start that conversation?
Well, the phone rang, and some lady answered the phone. Said, "This is Flying J Truck Stop. Can I help you?" And I knew who it was, and I didn't even tell her who I was. I said, "I'm just looking for someone that would want to go out and go out to maybe a country and western restaurant and eat a steak and maybe dance a little bit with a lonely Texan. Anybody that would want to do that?" I'm just being blunt. That's I could hear her smile in over the phone, and she said, "Yeah, I believe I could find somebody that would want to do that." And I said, "You don't even know who I am." She said, "Yes, I do." So I told her, I said, "Let me jump in the shower and clean up." And the funny thing about this was, I jumped out of the shower and I'm all cleaned up and I'm looking around and she's a no-show. And
she went home to get a shower.
That's exactly, you got it. But, I have very little patience, so I thought, well, I'll go in here to the restaurant and eat a meal. I ate me a salad. And I gave her about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I came out and started around, and I thought, well, heck, another lonely day or two. So for whatever reason, I started to walk out the front door, and there was some gal that caught my attention walking in, and it was her. I was like, well, my goodness, you don't even look the same. You're a lot shorter. And she grinned, and I said, "So what's the deal?" And she said, "Oh, I went home and cleaned up a little bit." So that was we went out and basically ate a steak and for 3 hours told her my life story, and actually danced with a lady the first time in my life at 30 years old.
That was your first dance?
That was the first dance and the first date with her.
Your first dance ever?
Yes.
I mean, like junior high, high school, any dances in there?
No, there was no dances. No.
This was your first dance. Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know if she had sore toes after that, but anyway, so I would, call my dispatcher and tell him, I might, hey, I need to get back through Indianapolis, ASAP. So the next weekend came through, and we did it at the same time, went and seen her friends. And so the third weekend in a row, I told her, I said, well, I'll see you in about a month. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, my kids are small. I said, I've got to go and, take them and spend a few days with them. And I said, I'm on my way to Miami. Well, I got in the truck and I drove off. Stopped in Atlanta and called her and I told her, I said, well, heck, I said, my first drop is tomorrow at Orlando. I said, why don't I pick you up and I'll take you to Disneyland? 30 minutes, 45 minutes after she touched down, we was at Disneyland and or Disney World. I can't remember which is which. We're walking through there, and we had like 2 hours before they shut the park down. And so we was rushing through everything, and it just dawned on me, well, we're in Cinderella's castle. So I turned around, and there's a lot of people there, and I hollered at her. I said, Judy. I hollered her again, Judy. And she turned around. She said, yeah. I said, you want to get married tomorrow? She shook her head up and down. She said, yeah. So that was July the 31st.
Oh.
So that was the 30th. Yeah, July the 30th. So the next day, we went, and it was a very, very simple, just really basic, but apparently it took.
July 31st, 1995. You got married after knowing each other about a month.
Yeah, 30 days.
Wow.
And
all thanks to Kato Caitlin.
Well, a lookalike anyway. Maybe.
Okay, now let's get back to this thing. I mean, this is touched by heaven. Okay, so I'm just amazed Kato Caitlin left OJ to come on out all that way to Indianapolis just to help you guys get together. Let's put it this way: if Kato hadn't come up to you, this lookalike guy, I mean, does this happen without him?
No. There's no. I mean, you just don't know. Heck no. I mean, it took that, and I'm a truck driver. That's it. And, of course, we run team now. We've done that for like 22 years.
But you know what? Sometimes the chemistry is a weird thing, isn't it? I mean, when it clicks, it just clicks, and you know it when you feel it and see it. And that's awesome. I think it's a great, you and Roseanne Barr. Who would have thunk it?
Is it dumb luck? Was it something spiritual, or was it a prayer that I forced? Did I make it happen? Did I make it?
I think, you prayed, and so did she, and God looks out, and he sees that somehow or another he got that angel or Kato Caitlin, whatever. Somehow he did it from above. Well, we'll give God credit for this. We'll give God full credit for this. Brought you together. Your angels brought you together.
And I also, you've got this podcast, and this is great, but you've got to do one more thing. You've got to sit down, write it down, and call audible. and you've got to put it in audio form, because there are millions of people, that you could bless with these stories. And because, there's a lot of people that, they don't do podcasts. My wife, she doesn't do podcasts. I've heard of podcasts.
Well, I don't know. You never know. You just never know.
That'd be great. All righty, buddy.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Calling from his truck with his partner in the business and in life now. 25 years. Wouldn't you love to have been in Cinderella's castle when that proposal was going on? What is that? Oh, that'll never last. You can't just do that like that. 25 years. Congratulations. That's tremendous. Thanks again to Dave, Aaron, Catherine, and Tim for helping us out today. Thank you again for listening, for sharing these episodes, for keeping us a 5-star podcast by your ratings and reviews, your support through Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. Thanks for it all. 1 million downloads. That's a number. thank you for being a listener to this and sharing your stories and all. It's cool. My wife and I are just thrilled. This is kind of a cool day for us. Thank you so much. All right, see you next week here at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.